My name is Ashley Zia. I am the head of sales here at Explorance Metrics That Matter. We are so happy to have you. I am in Chicago, Illinois. I'm going to be kicking off the conversation today with our amazing longtime client, Stephanie Lambers, who is the director of operations at Cox Automotive. Stephanie's going to tell you a little bit more about her in a few minutes, but what we can say for certain from knowing her is she's incredibly passionate about learning and development and operations. Cox Automotive is a longtime partner to us, and in our humble opinion, Stephanie is one of the best when it comes to partnering with the business and leveraging data to be really good partners to them. So today, she is going to be talking about going beyond the survey, as the title of the webinar shares. And really, you'll walk away with three main things. How do you understand the business needs and expectations as a partner to them? How do you show data and progress, whether you've got no data, imperfect data, or you've got great data? And then how do you really communicate learning's impact in a clear and business focused and actionable way? So a couple of logistics before I pass it off to Stephanie. You'll notice we're in presentation mode, but those of you already using the chat, that's the perfect place to interact. I will be monitoring the chat as Stephanie's chatting. So if you have a question or you want to share feedback, please feel free to be active in the chat. We will come back together for just a couple minutes after Stephanie's presentation, and I'll close us out. But that's the game plan. And Stephanie, I'm going to give it off to you.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, give me 1 second here and we'll get things going. All right, I
Hello
think we're
from
good.
Ontario. Hello from everyone else.
Awesome, awesome. From all over. I love it. Can you hear me
Yes.
okay?
Yes. Hear you perfect. See it
Okay.
perfectly.
All right, perfect. Well, I am so thankful for the opportunity to be here, not just because there are eager minds that want to learn and do better in this space, but also that I have been blessed with a career path that's allowed me to learn so many cool things from a lot of amazing people that I could share with you guys today. The goal for me personally would be that I could reinvigorate your excitement for learning if that's something that's fell off, and also give you a few things that you could take away and put into place or action right away. So I want to just thank you, Ashley, for introducing me and being an amazing partner yourself. A little bit about myself before we dive in. I do work at Cox Automotive. I have Cox Automotive is a company that has about 30,000 employees, and I work in the corporate learning space. And we have at Cox Automotive 30 to 40 companies. It's always changing. But some of those big brands that you may know or have heard of are autotrader.com, Kelley Blue Book, Manheim Auctions, things like that. So essentially, when you go to look for a vehicle, anything you do with relation to the dealer or you're searching, things like that, we touch in some form or fashion. So our job in learning and development is to focus on the people side of the business. So we don't train on systems or how to sell a product. We have pockets throughout the business that do that, but most of our work revolves in the leadership development, more of the soft skills. Right now, we're focused heavy on AI, and that could be a whole nother. Ashley, I didn't even think about that. We could spend a whole nother 2 days talking about what's happening in the AI space. So we can do that another time. A little bit about myself, past work. I've been in L&D for 25 plus years, pretty much my entire professional career in learning and development in some form or fashion. I love facilitation, actually just engaging a room of people. This is a little different because I know you guys are on mute, but you can use the chat. And if we were together in person or this were like an interactive webinar, you can bet that you'd be chatting with me back and forth. I also, right now, I lead two teams or functions. One is the learning design, so the designers that create the design experiences, and then learning operations. We are responsible in operations for three things: learner experience, measurement, and operational efficiencies. And this is a newer function for us. We've only had this function for 3 years at Cox Automotive, and it is a game changer. I have education in business management and HR. I am a breast cancer survivor just a few years out, and so it's been a big part of my recent journey. And I live in Michigan with my husband, who's a second grade teacher of 20 years. We have 4 kids. And outside of work things, I have a very strong faith. I prioritize my family time. I love dancing, singing, working out. We have 3 dogs, a cat, a partridge in a pear tree. And P.S., I love my job. I just love my job. Okay, I think that's good for the intro. If that stirs up anything that you want to chat about later or connect with me on, please do. So Ashley already mentioned it, but here's what you'll walk away with today. Here's what we're going to focus on. And I also like to keep things and make things really simple for you, like for everyone that I talk to, because I think sometimes we overcomplicate things. So the three things that we're going to walk away with is talking about a mindset shift on what are we offering and learning, and how does it support a business need? And so I'm hoping that rhetorically you'll think through some of the things I'm sharing and you'll either confirm, yes, we've got that figured out, or we have an opportunity there and here's what we can do. The second thing would be showing data and progress from data and insights that you have and what that looks like. Some of you may have this set up pretty well today, and maybe you'll learn something new. And some of you may be very early on, and you could find a few things to do along the way. Lastly is how do you communicate the impact? This is something we've been evolving for 3 years. I actually have some pre and some post to show you. I'm going to give you a lot of examples today of things that we're doing in learning operations to show our value in learning. So anyway, lots of good stuff. That's what we're in for today. So let's continue diving in. And the first thing I want to get your mind wrapped around is to think about, where do your learning requests come from? And when I say that out loud, think through it. Think about, is it pockets of the business? Is it your leader? Is it a vendor or a partner? Is it compliance? Is it new hire? Orientation? Where do your learning requests come from? And I say that because if you put a personal spin on it, I know every January people have New Year's resolutions, but let's just say that you have a resolution to either have better mental health or better physical health. So if your goal is to have better mental health and you create a SMART goal around that, you know specifically what you're after. Completions of what you're doing may not be the best measurement, right? Satisfaction of what you're doing may not be the best measurement. If we can put it into practical things, when you think about something you're trying to accomplish, it can't be the same. It's not one in of the same. So I start with that question to get your mind thinking about, where are these requests coming from that I get? And so that we can make a stronger connection back to the business and showing the success or lack thereof. So just something to think through as we get going. So why measurement must evolve? Here's really where we've consistently seen the problem. And I do a lot of benchmarking in my job. We had a workshop with Chick-fil-A just a few years ago. We are constantly looking to other companies to see what we can do better. How can we learn? How can we grow? So I have some perspective on just different learning and development teams. We measure typically in L&D what's easy. So those things come in the way of how many completions did you have? How many people were there in attendance? Were the learners satisfied? Did they like the day, right? Was the food, the environment, all the things? How did those things line up? But these don't show if there will be an impact in what you're trying to measure. Again, getting back to that last slide, if you know exactly the situation and what the learning request is, we can tailor our success metrics a little bit differently. The shift really for us is that measurement becomes more of a system. So we partner with the business, define success in terms of behaviors, and then we track those outcomes. So that's kind of where we're headed with today. All right, so the type of learning request should determine what you measure. So I guess the first question I want to ask, and I know we're not in a room where you can answer, but I'm going to ask you to use the chat a little bit, and Ashley, maybe help me out here.
Yes.
Just a few opportunities for this along the way, but are you measuring your learning experiences differently? So what I mean by that is you have a sales training, you have new hire orientation, you may want to reduce churn, you may want to work on promotions. What is it you're looking to achieve? And just kind of think through, are you measuring those things the same way? So give a thought. If there's a perspective on that, I would love for you to share that in chat. Because what I have found while those are coming in, if there's anything that's shared, is that we started out that way. Everything pretty much was cookie cutter, which is great and a really good place to start. And it helps you kind of spin off from there. Ashley, any insights there? I'm going to see if I
Not
can
yet.
find the
I
chat.
think everyone's
Okay.
probably still thinking.
Yeah, right. I know I do. It's like talking to me is like drinking from a fire hose, I think they say.
In the best
I,
way.
I didn't know what that meant for the longest time until until I did. Okay. So you guys can just think through that even as we continue on, and please feel free to share at any time. But the goal of this is really to get you to think that we should be measuring them differently if they have different outcomes that we're after. All right. Oh, I just scrolled through my entire mouse here. Okay. So where we're at today is to look at partnering differently in general, starting with the business, not the request. So, one thing that we've been trying to do is when we get a request for something, could very much look like a leader coming in to say, our team needs teamwork. We need team building. Okay. So now we have a good setup process where we can go to the customer and we can say, what does that look like? How would you know if it was successful? So oh, well, we need 20 people in this team to go through this training and they complete the team building. We're going to take it a little bit deeper. What behaviors are you looking to see after? Okay. Well, we're looking for them to have stronger collaboration and we're looking for them to have better trust. Okay. Take it a step further. How will you know that you have stronger communication and that you have better trust? And so we're really getting specific with the business to say, what is it you're really trying to solve for? And sometimes you have to push your customers a few layers deep. I know this isn't as black and white. I know some people are just doing compliance training where you've got to push something out to the masses. I've been at some MTM Explorance conferences before where I know a large majority of customers are working towards things like compliance, things like new hire orientation, and just kind of a lot of the check the box type of training. They still, at the end of the day, serve some type of business need. It's to address some issue. So I'm just encouraging you today to try to dissect that a little bit. Partnering differently can look like asking those questions about how behavior will change and identifying the performance actions that will drive those outcomes, essentially, at the end of the day. We're really changing from this mindset in L&D, or where we want to go from being an order to more of a thought partner. So we get requests like, can you build a course for me? Can you build an e-learning course? Or can you launch a training? We want to launch a training on this. We have a sales organization. We want them to ask better open-ended questions, right? But for what? What do we want them to do that for? So we want to switch from building a course to launching a training to asking those questions around what problem are we solving for and what must change on the job. So before we go too much further, I just want to kind of summarize this thought process of being a different partner for the business, asking harder questions, asking open-ended questions, and really sometimes I like to think about it as working backwards. What do you want to see at the end of this? And again, that can be for any type of training that you offer, and then working backwards from there. So sometimes that can be a really good, helpful way to approach it.
Stephanie, you got a couple comments from the chat. So Holly says, we're still measuring everything the same, but want to know how to measure things differently. Savannah says surveying on specific learning objectives has been way more helpful than cookie cutter. Erin, it sounds like, is at the beginning of her journey. I'd like to measure more around business success metrics. Suba says we're moving more towards surveying on specific learning objectives and business goals.
Nice, nice. I love that. Thank you, guys. I can see that in the chat now too. It really is an evolution, and it seems like each of you are at a different place, but you are so on the right path, and that just is very, very exciting. All right, I'm going to move to the next piece here. So these 3 business questions could help you. It's one thing that we've been trying to do when we partner with a business. Now, when I say business, I want to share with you what that means to Cox Automotive here for us. When we say partner with a business, we partner with the human resource business partners in that area of the business. Now, Cox has 30 plus companies. We have them, those are broken down into 5 to 7 verticals. So like inventory solutions, retail solutions, mobility. We have those types of categories. So when we say partner with a business, we need leadership training, but that looks very different depending on if you are in Mannheim in the auction working with dealers that are coming in on auction day, sale day to get a car, whether you are a general manager in a dealership, whether you're an independent lot or a franchise lot. So it looks very different. Leadership is not cookie cutter all the time. There are some basic fundamentals, but when we can cater it more towards what the business needs, it's better for everyone at the end of the day. So HR business partners and then business leaders. The other thing we ask is when you're getting a request from someone, if you're getting a request from one person, you may want to consider asking them who a peer is, or maybe you word it as who's another stakeholder that could weigh in on what they want to achieve. There's usually that middleman that comes in and asks for the request from L&D in some form or fashion, but they're working with business leaders or managers that really may know more about the problem or what they're trying to solve for, outside of the actual request. So just some good thoughts as you're moving through these requests and learning. Three questions that we work with the business on. What business outcome are we trying to influence? What needs to happen differently on the job for that outcome to improve? Because that helps us know what behaviors we're after. And then how would we recognize success 60 to 90 days out? The other piece that would be a whole nother call is to talk about who's going to support this effort. So one of the things, I'm going to talk a little bit about MTM the more that we unfold things here, but one thing that MTM allows us to do at Cox, and we've been a partner for several years now, is to move into the 60 to 90-day space after learning occurs. And it's invaluable. It is working with the manager of the learner and the learner themselves 45 days out, 90 days out to say, is what we were trying to achieve sustained? Is it crashing? Is it going well? What insight do we glean from that we can use to know if we're hitting the mark? So really thinking through these three questions has been really, really, really helpful for us here at Cox. All right, so I wanted to pause and just take a moment, and I'm glad I can see the chat moving through now. But I wanted to ask you guys, if you had to choose one of these questions, which one? Go ahead and throw it in the chat if you will. I guess you could just do 1, 2, or 3. Put a 1, a 2, or a 3 in. Is the hardest to answer from your lens? What business outcome are we trying to influence? What needs to happen differently on the job that will improve the outcome? Or how would we recognize success later? So 1, 2, or 3. Go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm really curious to see what you guys think. What's the most challenging? I'm kind of looking over here in the left-hand side. All right, lots of 2s. Ooh, lots of 2s. 3s and 2s. 1 and 2, Suba. Okay. All right, a follow-up question to that real quick. Can you share a little phrase about why? If you had to summarize that, and I know you're on mute, just use the chat. Why is it hard to answer that question? What do you think is the biggest barrier to getting that information? So that's not a 1, 2, or 3. So I'm going to give you a second for that. These are hard questions.
And good questions, might I add.
Well, sometimes I feel like the customers don't, I mean, the stakeholders may not even know, which could be the biggest barrier, right? Yeah,
Yep.
getting buy-in from the field that this needs to happen in order to improve. Yeah. Ability to change for number 2. Yeah. Getting buy-in from the field. The buy-in piece is so, so important. And towards the end of the call, we're going to talk about those simple metrics that matter. No pun intended, but pun intended. You guys were thinking when you created that name.
We were.
Stakeholders having a hard time identifying the specific behavior. Yeah. Yeah, what I'm hearing from this is that you guys really are the consultants. You're not just yeah, that was it. The person coming to you usually isn't super clear themselves. Yeah. It's almost like we have to put on a different hat. We can like the order taker, we know how to take the orders. You guys know how to work with people in your organizations to figure out how to get that training done, whether it's an e-learning or not. I know we're all really tight on resources. Trust me, I feel that pinch also. But at the end of the day, we can create the training, right? We have AI today that's making PowerPoints for us look amazing and takes less time and all the things. But really, it's putting that consultant hat on and being able to help them figure this out. So saving these 3 questions, what business outcome are we trying to influence? Really pushing them on that and give them some specific examples, like if they're looking for better team dynamics, in what way will they see that? It's like pushing them one step further. It's almost like that 2-year-old questioning, like, why? Why is that? Why is that? And so just pushing back through those layers. The business owner isn't usually, stakeholders, getting 60-day follow-up submissions. Managers know something is not working, but identifying what what it is can be hard for them. Oh, yeah. Okay. Um, Depending much on the leadership management to put learning into real work and measure. Yeah, it is a lot. Some of the times it can feel so overwhelming that we need to start really small and narrow in on it. So I'm going to, you'll have this as a resource in case these questions are helpful, but I'm going to keep moving here to show a few things. What counts as success? Here are some of the things that we report out on, and I'm gonna show you what this looks like, and I'm gonna show you our evolution of how it started so small, because we had to do all those things. We still do. We still have to prove our worth in learning, and because different customers want different things, and it looks very different. Here are some real success indicators, and success could mean, when I say that, I don't mean that everything's going well. It could be that the data also is showing something that needs to be fixed. So here are some indicators. Maybe it's a skill that you're looking to have your learners obtain or strengthen. It's maybe something you want them to apply differently on the job, to do something differently on the job. And in that, it almost comes to the third bullet. It's observable behavior change in some way. I can witness, I can observe, I see these things in action. Progress toward a defined goal. I want to be able to do this, by this, through this, more of a SMART goal framework. Maybe it's cost savings. Maybe they want to save cost. Maybe we're losing clients and we want to reduce our churn. Maybe it's retention of team members. We started an entire 2-year effort that's in its second year right now to reduce churn in the frontline leader for one whole area of the business. 1,000 or 2,000 of this role across the business, our turnover was so high. So we started this entire program to increase retention. And then lastly, also to maybe it's promotion. Maybe you want to have a stronger promotion rate of certain people in certain roles so that you can save on attrition costs. So there's lots of different things that you can measure when you're looking to identify success. Really thinking about it from learning is the means, it's not the goal. The goal isn't to have a team building session or to do new hire orientation for everyone that walks through the door. Why do we need new hire orientation? We need new hire orientation so that we can improve our culture, that we can shorten the ramp up curve, right? There's lots of reasons why we would want to have an orientation. And then how do we measure that? How are we observing that? So just a few thoughts there. The other thing that I learned years ago that's really helped us show our value, and it's such a small thing, but maybe you could take it back today. We refer to our employees in learning as our learners. I don't know if everyone does that here, but it was a game changer for me. When you start to think about the mindset of your learners, you look at all of this stuff differently. It's not just an employee, because employees get benefits, they get compensation, they don't just get learning, right? They are our learners. It makes you think about how they're learning, what their experience is like. How can you tell if they're going to use it on the job? It just puts a different perspective on it. And we report out on a lot of times when we're talking, we say our learners. Just a few small things there. All right. So just as a high level, levels of evaluation, and we know that there are four. Most of us in the learning and development space know there are four. It's really easy for us to focus on levels 1 and 2. And so in our space, I'm going to show you some examples of what we use and how we do it. But starting off at that level 1 and 2, we initially just scratched level 1 and decided we were going to combine level 1 and 2 after everything that we do at Cox Automotive in learning. This is one decision we made as a team. And so sometimes some of you right now may be like, well, we do it on some, we don't do it on others, but why? Right? Is it a different customer you have? Is it a different leader saying they don't need it? If your influence is in the learning and development space, perhaps you take this call today or an opportunity to draw a line in the sand. Maybe it's a different month. The month of May, we're really changing how we, right, or whatever. But level 1 and 2, we combine into one. I'm going to show you that in a second. And we ask it after every single learning that happens. Now, what we do with the data and the depth of what we do it for matters greatly. And I'll show you that. Level 3 and 4, we've drawn a line in the sand this way. We offer classes at Cox Automotive for our learners, which are 30,000 employees, in a self-registration way where we have a number of offerings and it's first come, first serve registration for those. We do level 2 on all of those. We also do level 3. But when we get into our nomination programs that have a much higher cost per learner, we go deeper on those. That's an intentional choice we made. So you'll have to do the same. You'll have to decide on which programs. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to measure everything in some form or fashion. It just is one of those things that will help you with all of your data. So level 1, measuring how the learner reacts. Level 2, measuring to what degree they think they learned today and they're thinking they're going to apply it. Level 3 would be how and if they are applying it back to the job, typically better assessed at 45 days after or more. And then level 4, the return on investment to impact the bottom line. I will tell you that is so, so tricky. I'm sure that you guys know that. Using a tool like MTM has changed the way that we can do all of this. MTM has a beautiful level 1 through 4 framework that integrates with your LMSs. I also wanted to share on this call specifically, we on our team need to go through request for proposals. And if you're not familiar what that is, that means that every few years, supply chain leaders, et cetera, are coming to you and saying, let's make sure they're the right vendor for you, that they're the right partner for you. And so I just wanted to share that we went through a request for proposal, this process of interviewing other players in the measurement space just 2 years ago. And Explorance, hands down, is still the best player in the measurement space when it comes to reporting out on this value. So I just wanted to share that. I know you didn't ask for plugs, Ashley, but I could not give them. So
Thank you. Thank you.
okay. This is really, really awesome. I want to talk to you if you're the person that's like, I don't even know where to start, Stephanie. And I want to talk to you if you have as much data as we do and you're looking for more creative ways to measure and raise your game. So in this space next, I'm going to share with you how we use imperfect data because we had to start somewhere. And our data is not always good. So even no matter where you are today, using imperfect data on purpose, that can change your culture. If your stakeholders know you're coming to them to show them something you've identified is an opportunity, like how vulnerable of you to do that, right? That builds trust. That can remove barriers. Perfect data rarely exists. We have systems that don't talk to each other. Our data is not always clean. There's a lot of barriers that can get us in the way from measuring. So this information, whether good or not, should inform our approach. Also, progress over perfection. The small tweaks are such a beautiful thing to see. And I have some really great examples on this. So, all right. I want to pause and just see if there's anything in the chat. I don't want to keep going without if anyone has anything that they are thinking or anything on your mind. We're about halfway through. So I'm going to get into some examples to really show you what we've done, what we're doing. Okay. Of course, feel free to stop me along the way. So I'm going to show you some examples now of our imperfect data. So we provide, this is a lot on the slide, so just kind of think, listen to me for a second and just maybe look at me and Ashley or if there's any other videos on. This is, we report out on monthly and we report on quarterly and end of year. We do these huge dashboards. I have some examples to show you about what they looked like 3 years ago when they started to where they are now. This is more on what they look like now. But I'm using these next few slides to show you how we use data that's not good and what story that tells our customers. And this is all in partnership with our MTM experience solution that we have that allows us to capture everything we're doing. MTM talks to our LMS so that what we're doing in our LMS, we can report out on an MTM, we can create dashboards. Now this dashboard we created, partly you'll see MTM graphs and then you'll see some of our stuff. We use Power BI and our MTM dashboards to bring this data to life. This is the most simple form of intake or report out on, in my opinion. What I mean by that is 3 years ago when we started our operations function, we realized and discovered through this workshop that we had over a dozen ways that we received intakes in learning. We had smart sheets, forms, SurveyMonkey, Poll Everywhere, all types of forums that email, chat that people would send in for learning requests. If that's you today, I strongly urge you to start simple and streamline that process. Work with your stakeholders, your peers to say, we're going to have one central source of truth. Make it work for you. If you need to use Copilot, ChatGPT, OpenAI, whatever your company approved AI is to streamline that for you, make it work. Get your partners on board and help to show them the value that you'll be able to show out what types of requests you're getting, when they're requesting them for, all of the things. So start simple. We, on this slide, what you're seeing here, and I've highlighted it, is to show you the opportunities we have. When we're looking at this and we see anything in orange, it's showing us that we're getting ready to spend money on a training where we have less than 50% of people enrolled in it. And so we have a policy that if that's the case, we cancel it within a certain window to save the company money. We align it to our travel policy, which is 14 days out to make sure people aren't booking flights that would cost $1,000. So we manage this on a regular basis. How big is your team, you ask? One person. So an amazing colleague, it's Natalie Smith and myself. We've been doing learning operations for 3 years by ourselves, and it's her full-time job, and I am doing it as often as I can, but she's really the mastermind behind everything. But so this here calls out for us on a monthly basis, warning, warning, and then we do the best we can to promote the classes and see what we can do to fill them. But this is data that's uncomfortable to show our stakeholders. We go to the call and I tell my vice president, right now, we have 3 classes that are less than 50% capacity. He's like, why? And what are you doing to solve for that? Right? Well, this data allows us to, this is coming from our LMS. These classes are all in MTM, and we're able to capture it this way. So that's just one small example. Let's get to the next one. This is something that we would pull right from MTM within our dashboard. So this shows you some of our self-registration courses. This is level 2 survey data. We report out on everything we do, like I said, every month. Let me break this down for you. On the left-hand side are 3 courses. Radical Candor, it happened on February 12th. Leading Continuous Improvement, it happened on February 24th. Self-Directed 7 Habits, it happened on February 24th. Then we pull our data from MTM. Our Net Promoter Score is that question that says, would you recommend this course to others? Then we have our average rating. Then we have how many people took the survey. And then based on those that enrolled in it, what's the survey response rate? When we started out 3 years ago, we used MTM's benchmarks that they have that are industry benchmarks. And we started out at that, I think 55%, which is the MPS, or 53%, something like that. Over time, our facilitators are required to hit a much higher benchmark. So our benchmark right now is 80 for our classes. Ashley, is that high?
Yes.
It's very high. Our poor facilitators, they have a
Very.
very high, they have a very high. So something to call out here is the response rate is 13%. Now, Ashley, any of your partners at MTM, Bethany, they will tell you that industry average to really use the data should be between a 40 and a 60%, especially for that level 2 space. Level 3, you're getting a little bit smaller in that audience because it is 45 days later, but you're going to want that between a 40 to 60% to start off, just to be on level with industry average. And so our industry goal, I should say, probably. So this is an area we would call out. You can see that clearly against the 81% and 92% that is very, very low. So this provides us poor data that gives us good data, because now we can say, who is this facilitator? And I had the names on here. I whited them out so for confidentiality, but we can go to that facilitator and say, and you can see this within MTM's dashboards. Facilitator Bob Smith, your response rate is 13%. Your score is amazing, but we only had 3 people. Is that because you only had a 3-person? No, it wouldn't have been a 3-person class. It would have been higher. Is that because you didn't give them a survey after the class, or because you didn't close the class out so MTM could trigger the survey? Help us figure out what's happening here. Or is it in your LMS, etc.? Over on the right-hand side, you can see some charts and graphs, and that is all information that we pull right from MTM. You can see that there are benchmark lines there for the average ratings. So we could dive in on that a whole nother day. But another piece of results that were really poor here is we do, I'm going to show you in a minute, we do a lot of pre and post for certain classes. It's another way we can gauge whether we're moving the needle. We can see here that there is 0 results for our pre-assessment. So this tells us that a facilitator did not give the survey out for the pre, which is not a part of the experience. So what I'm trying to show you here is every piece of data counts. Every piece of data counts, and it tells a story and it helps you fix it. So if you're my stakeholder and I'm coming to you saying that we have low response rates, that we have no results here, that we are at less capacity for our classes that need to be filled, you're showing your value, and you're not showing anything in dollar amounts, but you're showing that what you're doing is capturing enough information to inform decision making. That's the value of L&D. That's what MTM has helped us do. Performance consulting, this is another one just for opportunity, 12%. Now, what this shows you is we do a pre and a post because we have some sessions where if we're inviting you to the experience, we want to know, what do you know before the session starts and what do you know after, and is there a difference? So this 12% increase is self-reported skill growth from before to after, and 12% for us is low. We want to see this number at least around 19 to 20, which seems to be our benchmark of where we're at, our average, if you will. And so this is low. So sometimes this helps us to know that the Orlando market, which it'll show you your locations and all of that, the Orlando market is not needing this training because Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Lauderdale have low reported skill growth. So that shows us information that they may not need the training, whereas other parts of the United States, the gaps are huge. And so they're showing a real big difference. So, but the beauty is with MTM specifically, that tool, you can slice and dice this however you need to really show that value. All right, and then lastly here, another low response rate on the right-hand side, you can see in the red for project management essentials, a really low response rate for us. For us. Okay, I want to show a little bit more in practical action, but I wanted to, shout out to, oh, thank you for that, for Natalie. Okay, any questions or anything in the chat, just feel free to put them in there. Practical measurement and action. So we talked in the beginning about changing that mindset and really getting back to the business outcomes. I want to show you some of the ways that we do that. Once you get past that simple reporting, the simple intakes, the simple repetitive actions, once you can ask stronger questions to the business, there are different ways you can show the value. And so I want to give you some of those examples now. The first one would be in a pre and a post. So I showed you that a few slides ago where it was this is the self-reported gain. So this is an example of a pre and post that we do in Metrics That Matter. And we ask questions. I am confident in my ability to give performance feedback. I am confident in my ability to. It's really, you want to be really careful on how you ask the questions, and your MTM team would help you in this way, write those questions the right way so that you're not double barreling questions by asking more than one thing in a sentence. There's a lot that goes to it other than just asking a question. And then I gave you an example of a post at the bottom. So now on 2 days later, I have been provided the tools. So you're really measuring that gap. So pre and post is one way. If you're not doing it, you can consider doing that for certain classes to see if there is a change in knowledge. And MTM has a solution to help you with that for sure. This is level 1. This measures that reaction to. So in every survey you do, one thing I love about MTM is that you'll have that net promoter score. How likely are you to recommend this experience to someone else? That tells you whether the class was good enough that they're going to tell a friend. They would recommend someone else spend their time there. Very specific on what kind of scales you use. You're basically rating the degree to which you agree or disagree with the following statement. So it's you can expect it. Another thing about measurement when working with an MTM, and I know it's not an MTM call, but your tool is just so valuable for us that we have people all over that want to send us surveys. So if you have 20 facilitators and they all create their own surveys, they want it to look very different. And so when we pull all that in and we streamline things, we say, this is the approach we're using. This is the process we're following. And it really helps level set for everyone. makes people feel more comfortable and almost trust you because you're following that same process in terms of the structure of your questions. So level one is just getting that reaction. And again, we don't do just a level one, we combined it with level two. So this is the level two. I've highlighted in yellow there what changed from level one to two so you can see. This is just a little bit here about I will apply. We're still asking that anticipation question. I will apply what I learned to my job. And I do think my job performance will improve, or I don't think my job performance will improve. That's anticipation of your acquired learning. Um, and then the content was relevant to my job. So we give a level two on everything. This is the level three, and you have to pick and choose when you use this. But essentially, it's saying if you're in this session today, or you go through this 10-week course, or whatever you do, and someone asks you or your manager 45 days later, 90 days later, if it worked, how will we know? So the example I have is around project management. And so what we do, and this is different, this is unique for us. Um, there are some standard questions you can ask around level three. We customize ours depending on the experience. So we want to be able to tell the stakeholder if they are requesting project management and they tell us why, and we work through all of that. We want to be able to come back and say, this is what we're seeing. Are you better able to manage projects using the content learned in this course? Can you differentiate between a stakeholder and a key stakeholder? It's something we teach in the course. Are you better able to write a project scope statement? Again, something that's taught in the course. Essentially, for level three, you want to ask yourself, can it be observed? Can it be something you're reporting out on? Where can you find the answer to level three? If you can't find the answer to level three, it's not the right kind of question. In my experience, it's just not. I can have stronger conversations with my colleagues. That's too vague. I mean, you may be able to observe that, but by doing what? I'm able to have better conversations with my colleagues by following the 5-step model taught in Grow Coaching or something like that. That would be more specific because then a manager can actually observe it. And so that's when it gets into showing a little bit more value there. All right. A manager follow-up, we do an employee follow-up 45 days out, and we do a manager follow-up 45 days out. Now, some of our follow-up surveys, we do 90 days out. You'll have to decide when you're doing level three what works best for you. But we follow this same process for a lot of our courses, and then we report out on it. As I mentioned earlier, you will see typically a lower percentage of response rate for your level threes, and that's just a goal we're continuing to work towards every day. All right, I'm going to skip past that. I want to give you some before and after of where we started, and I want to make sure I leave some time your thoughts and some of these examples. So here's some before and after. Don't laugh, Ashley, or anyone else. But these are where we started. This is where we started 3 years ago, and a simple is best. Here's the first slide. Okay, literally all we were trying to do 3 years ago is capture what we were doing. That's it. We had so many intakes. We had so many different places. We had so many different surveys. People are using SurveyMonkey forms, all the things. And this is what we had. This is it. Total number of completions, 46,000, or 4,600. And then what we got to do from here is it would evolve every month and we could show, well, we have a little bit more this month. And then every year we could start to look at our trends. We could start to look at what we see here. This is what it looked like as we evolved over an entire year in 2023. Then we could show in one place in a table who's completed instructor-led courses. That's the ILT piece there. QOQ, quarter over quarter, year over year. How many design projects did we complete? Service station tickets, on-demand completions. So you can get 50% of these numbers we grab from MTM and our LMS, and then 50% we get just from our LMS. And then you can start to say whether you had an increase or a decrease. And then all of a sudden your data starts to tell a story. And then we take completions, work with our data analytics team, and start to say, for those that have completed in a learning experience, are these people still here? Did any of them get a promotion? And then we can report back out on that. One thing I wanted to add on that, just to keep us all safe in L&D, and I used to have a different mindset. I used to think that I wanted to be able to go to our stakeholders and say that I could tell you that 40% or I wanted to say 80% of people that go through learnings are are retained 20% higher or promoted 20% stronger. And I had a really great leader share with me that you never want to be a single source of truth for that, because when things don't go well and promotions go down, or you have a lot of attrition, you don't want that to be your sole responsibility. You are an input, not the end all be all. So that was a really huge learning for me, and I love that mindset shift. Although when it's good, we want to take all the credit. We don't want to have the credit put on us when everything doesn't go well. So things like that happen. Okay. So this is where we're at today. This is our most recent executive dashboard that's shared with all of our presidents, all of our VPs. They are loving it. And this up at the top left is all from MTM. So this shows us that we've had 60 sessions, which is 28% more than we had last year. We had an overall NPS of 80.72. It's less than 10% difference than last year, or it's a 10% drop from last year. Our level 2 ratings, the dip in that, what our level 3 NPS is, et cetera. So we can see year over year. We also have they have a new product that MTM has called Millie that helps you look at learner comments and feedback. And it's very different than just putting it in a regular Copilot or AI. It's custom for the learning space. So it starts to pick up on the patterns and the different descriptors and things that you see in the learning space. So that's also a very cool brand new tool that MTM has. And then on the right-hand side, a different way to look at it. So here are some highlights of classes that we've seen and some more data around that. This is another example. On the right-hand side, those are some of the graphs that we get in our partnership with MTM, with showing comparisons year over year on where we were at with some of our programs. So we really love that. And then this is our self-registration, again, showing how many completions are we up from this year? Are we down from this year? What are our top 5 courses? Essentially, everything we do in learning, we're looking to tell a story with. What's the story? And does our story of success align with what the business needs? That's really it. If we can't answer that question, then none of this matters. All right, the last thing I want to show you is how we're using learner investment today. Learner investment gets to the dollar amount, and it's new for us. We're about a year into this. We finally have buy-in, but let me explain what the buy-in took. I had to give multiple presentations to our executive leadership team to talk to them about what that would look like. I had to have years of data to show that we've used the data to make decisions to eventually get learner investment. What we want to be able to say to you, if you're an employee of Cox, is this is your compensation package, which you can see in your intranet, wherever you guys go to look at your comp. And there's a learning section in here. And this is the investment we've made in your learning, because we can tell you the dollar amount as a learning team. So this investment narrative frames cost per learner, perhaps cost per program, and is really a strategic investment that builds on credibility for what you do. Giving leaders what they need. This is clear insights. This helps them know whether or not they should scale something, whether they should adjust, whether certain programs exist. I'll tell you another thing we do. We have certain programs for different audiences at Cox Auto. And if we see that, for example, the AVP role, or the frontline leader role, or the supervisor role, or the software engineer role, whatever it may be, we're not going to have as many of those jobs next year. We may not offer a program because we see that. We tie what we do and the investment we make to business decisions. And yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot of work. It's fun and it's a lot of work. Here's some examples. So we have been able to calculate cost and investment by learner and by program. So some of our programs on the left-hand side, you can see that by learner, that's the investment we're making. And we had to work on formulas and what goes into it. Do you consider a salary part of the investment? Do you not, of the facilitator? You've got your shipping materials, all of the things, whatever goes into it, your license count, if you're using Zoom or Teams, all the things. Total investment by program, when we look at from a budget perspective, where we're seeing that. Now, if you can see here clearly that Bold is one of our most expensive programs, you better bet that I have to be able to explain what the value is in this. So that specific audience of 16 team members, we are following very closely. We work with talent to make sure that we know their talent ratings are in alignment with what we're doing. So again, a lot of what we do is in that leadership development space, but we have to have answers for all of this investment. And then this is just another way to look at it. So we have program experience, target audience, and then it just breaks it down a little bit different ways. All right. So lastly, two areas to kind of go into, and looks like we got just a few minutes for questions. But what I would say to you is start simple. If you're just getting started, focus on, streamlining your intakes, surveying everything. Where are your lines in the sand? How are you going to start capturing value? You may need to start with your L&D team, or maybe you need a few partners to come alongside you. Who in HR can you get with? Who in talent can you get with? What are the leaders you can really get on board with partnering with you so that you can show your value? And if you are getting so much pushback right now and you're thinking, Stephanie, I could never do this because I'm literally just getting their orders as fast as I can, and I can't even execute whatever you're thinking. We don't have the systems, we don't have the tools. I promise you, you can start small. You can start in Excel, you can start in something simple, and you can streamline your efforts and you can start simple, even if it's making one change, just consistently capturing completions. And then you build on that. And then you build on that. If you're also at a place where you're excited to show the value and you are looking for new ways, consider exploring the storytell of the data. So am I tying what I'm doing to business outcomes? Those questions really, really pushing your customers and their partners on what they're trying to achieve. And is what we're doing and learning going to get them that information at the end of the day? And then when you have all the spreadsheets and when you're using MTM dashboards and all of the things, what does that data, what story is it telling? So that's what I would say. I get fired up about this stuff. And Ashley, I'm sorry, an hour was not enough time. but but anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for your time today. I really do hope there were a few things that were new to you guys. I usually like to read nonverbals and all the things to know if I'm doing well or not. And so I really didn't have that opportunity with you. But I can tell you that I will be at the Explorance conference in Boston in June. And I would love to meet with you, talk to you about your biggest challenge or your biggest win. And I'd also like to learn from you if you have something to share. So, Ashley, I'm going to share a few things that you wanted to reference today.
Yes, amazing. I promised I would bring it back for just a couple of minutes. First and foremost, Stephanie, wow.
Oh, well.
Thank you for sharing all your best practice, all the ways that you've become such a great partner to the business at Cox Auto. They're so lucky to have your team. One of my favorite things you said that I wrote down is, what's the story and how do we align with the business?
Mhm.
So start small, start somewhere is something I took away. And hopefully all of you did too. We promised we didn't pay Stephanie to shout out
Oh,
MTM, but we're so glad she did.
no.
If you are listening live, you will get this playback and the presentation afterwards. If you're listening to the playback, thanks for joining. I
Mhm.
think both of our goal is, after this call, everyone can take something away, regardless
Mhm.
of where you are on your journey, and maybe think a little bit differently of how you're partnering with the business.
Mhm.
If you are learning about MTM for the very first time, we hope we earned the right to continue the conversation about how we might be able to support you and help you as you look at your intelligence layer for all of your initiatives and investments. Very last thing. Stephanie already shared she's going to be at our Explorance World Conference in Boston in June. There are two offers that we have for you all. It's going to be an incredible week together. We're bringing together L&D leaders, HR leaders, higher ed from all over the world. It will be 10x of what you just saw from Stephanie. She
Yeah.
will be doing a couple presentations. But there is an offer for you if you're local to Boston or you have a friend or a colleague who's in Boston that might be interested. We do have a day pass available if you use the QR code. It's low commitment, high opportunity for you to, learn more about us. It's valued at $200 for a day pass. You get all the sessions, the tech zone meals. You can come to our fun night at Italy. And then if you want to come, Stephanie, if you click to the next slide,
Hmm.
to the full
Yes.
conference, we have a code for you to use as well. If cost is a barrier at all, feel free to reach out to me or whoever reached out to you about this discussion today, and we'll make sure we find a way to get you there.
Hmm.
So that is it. That is our presentation. Stephanie, again, thank you. your passion came across just as you are. So thank you for doing such a great job.
Thanks for
As we
having
go
me.
forth,
I love it all.
you are so welcome to come back anytime. We love it. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thanks, guys, so much.
Bye.